Urashima Taro is one of Japan's oldest and most treasured folk tales. The story has been passed from one generation to another and is still an old favorite. Today, the Japanese people try to combine the best of Western and Japanese ways of life. They eat both Japanese and Western foods, read both Japanese and Western books, and wear both Japanese and Western clothes. The people love beauty, and many take vacation trips to admire the beautiful trees and flowers of their country. They often travel in large groups, and sometimes a whole school class takes an overnight trip. Japanese children go to school and study many of the same subjects as students in the United States, but more time is spent on reading and writing because the language is so difficult. The Japanese borrowed the Chinese system of writing as well as many Chinese words. The writing includes symbols, which were once picture words. Long ago, when Japanese children asked questions, many times the elders would tell a story to explain the answer. The children often asked about the life of a prince or a princess. When they asked why they too could not live like royalty, their parents answered by telling them the story of Urashima Taro. And they began by saying, "Mukashi, mukashi." Long, long ago, there lived a young fisherman named Urashima Taro. He lived with his old parents in a small village on the coast of Japan. Taro's father had been a fisherman before him and had taught him the skill and knowledge of fishing. But now, since his father was too old and too tired, Taro became the fisherman of the family. Everyone in the village knew Taro was a great fisherman, but he was also known for his kind heart. He would chat with the young, the old, and the lonely, bringing a little joy into their lives. One cool evening, Taro came home after a long, discouraging day. He had only caught 3 small fish. The fishing has been poor, he thought. Taro pulled his small boat onto the beach and started home. On his way, he heard some children laughing excitedly. He saw them tormenting a small sea turtle. "If you keep poking at that sea turtle, it'll die," called Taro. The children paid no attention and continued teasing the creature. Then Taro thought of a better way to deal with the mischievous children. "What if I trade you my fish for the turtle?" asked Taro. The children looked at each other, then looked at the sea turtle, and they cheered. "It's a deal." So, Taro handed the children his day's catch in exchange for the turtle's safety. The children ran off into the distance, laughing and chattering about their great bargain. Taro knelt down and gently picked up the small, shivering turtle. "I will return you to your home in the sea," said Taro. "I am sure you will be much happier there." Taro walked to the edge of the water and carefully coaxed the turtle into the gentle waves. He waited until the turtle disappeared far in the distance. And then he headed home with an empty basket. The next morning, as always, Taro rowed out to the open ocean. As he sat and waited for a fish to come, the soft waves splashed against the sides of his boat. It was very quiet and peaceful. Suddenly, he heard his name ring out in the ocean breeze. He looked around, but there were no other boats in sight. "I must have heard the cry of a seagull," thought Taro, and he went back to his fishing. Again, he heard his name, this time clear as a bell. He looked around again. He saw a sea turtle swimming alongside his boat. "A sea turtle calling my name?" chuckled Taro. "Yes, Taro," answered the sea turtle, surprising the lad even more. "Thank you for saving my life yesterday." "Oh, it's you," said Taro. "You are very welcome." Then the turtle asked Taro if he had ever seen the Dragon Palace. Taro shook his head and said, "Oh, I have heard many enchanting stories of this magnificent palace at the bottom of the sea, but I, myself, have never had the pleasure of visiting this wonderful place." "Then I would like to take you there," said the turtle. Taro returned to his fishing and said, I'd love to go, but I haven't finished my work. Besides, I don't have the strength to swim that distance." "Oh, you may ride upon my back," said the turtle. And at that moment, the turtle grew to more than twice its size. "Now won't you come with me?" asked the turtle. Taro could not resist the invitation, so he climbed onto the giant sea turtle's back, and he held onto the animal's shell. Then they dove into the deep blue sea. Strangely enough, Taro didn't grow tired as he traveled through the depths of the ocean. They swam through fields of golden seaweed until they reached a clearing. In the distance, a magnificent gate appeared. When the two travelers arrived, they could see a courtyard of colorful fish. The fish gave Taro a warm welcome and led them to a large hallway that was lined with golden columns so tall they seemed to touch the sky. The floors were tiled with rainbow shells more brilliant than the scales of a fish, and the walls were covered with coral, pearls, and precious stones. Never before had this fisherman seen such beauty and elegance. A lovely princess appeared. "Welcome to my father's palace, Urashima Taro. The sea turtle has told me of your kindness, and I'm so glad you have decided to come." Her voice echoed through the chambers like a melody. She led him to a large table covered with elegant trays of delicious foods. Such a marvelous feast for a mere fisherman, thought Taro. Court musicians filled the room with beautiful music. Taro spent many enchanted hours at the Dragon Palace. Each day brought new pleasures to behold, and every wish Taro ever had came true. He was so happy there, he forgot everything. 3 days slipped by before he even gave a thought to the home he left behind, his parents, or his life as a fisherman. One day, the princess led Taro to a large viewing room. On each wall was a window, and each looked out on the beautiful garden that surrounded the palace. "This is a timeless garden where the 4 seasons can be seen at once," said the princess. Taro looked through the east window and saw spring. Cherry trees were in full bloom, and a fresh aroma filled the air. Through the south window, Taro saw the warmth of summer. A carpet of grass with lush green trees bearing fruit that was so ripe he could almost taste its sweetness. Looking through the west window, Taro could see the trees of autumn. The warm-colored leaves tossed and floated against the sunset sky. Then a cold wind blew into the room, and Taro turned toward the north window. His heart fell, for the cold winter scene reminded him of his own village. A chill ran down his back, for now he realized how much he missed his life as a fisherman. He slowly turned to the princess and explained that his parents must be worried, and it was time to go home. The princess began to weep and begged Taro to stay, but Taro shook his head in sorrow, for he knew he had already stayed much too long. The princess handed him a shiny black lacquered box tied with a red silk cord. "Taro, you must take this box as a token, but please never open it, for it contains something very precious." Taro promised never to open the box and waved farewell as he left the palace. The turtle carried Taro back through the sea to the shore of his village. Taro walked slowly along the same shore he had walked many times before, but something seemed different. The hills and shore were the same, but there were many new houses he had never seen before. He walked towards his home, but in its place he found a strange new house. He ran to an old man who was sitting nearby and asked him, "Oji-san, what happened to the house of Urashima?" "Ah, you must be a stranger," said the old man. "My grandfather told me the legend of the young Urashima boy who was swallowed by the sea. But that was hundreds of years ago." "That cannot be possible. I am Urashima Taro. The old man looked at Taro in bewilderment. He shook his head, for he was too old and too tired to argue about such nonsense. Confused and frightened, Taro ran to the shore, for that was the only thing that did not change. He was comforted by the lonesome pounding of the surf. Perhaps the sea turtle will return, Taro thought. He waited and waited, but the turtle did not appear. There's no hope. Then he remembered the black box. Perhaps this will take me back to the palace. Although he had promised not to open it, he slowly untied the red silk cord and carefully lifted the lid. A strange cloud of mist drifted out and brushed against Taro's face, then floated away into the sea breeze. Bewildered, Taro looked into the empty box. Suddenly his face grew wrinkled. His dark black hair turned snowy white. His youthful body grew old. Now Taro understood. The box had contained his youth. Moments ago, Taro was a strong young man, but now he sat alone on the beach, a very old man. The tale of Urashima Taro is a story with many different meanings. Some say the moral of the story is never break promises. Others say the moral is that fortune and money do not always bring happiness, and that true happiness comes from the family, the home, and the heart. Still other people say there is no moral at all to this story. It's just a story which will make you feel happy and make you feel sad. Urashima Taro is one of many folk tales from Japan. You can find others in your school and public libraries, like Momotaro, the Peach Boy, and Kaguya Hime, the Luminous Princess, and Shitakiri Suzume, the Tongue-Cut Sparrow. Read and enjoy the folk tales from Japan and from all over the world. Share a story with a friend so our tales will never end.
The preceding program was funded in part by a grant from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.